Come on, you got this. Let's rise, let's shine, let's soar. No, be accept. You are uniquely you. Step in the room, feel the rhythm ignite. Good vibes only, we're lifting the. Come on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am a little nervous and a little excited about this live tonight. So, if you are new to following me, a couple of things that we like to do. You can comment in the comment section. Just keep it respectful, please. If you could hit that like button, that would be amazing. And if you would like to subscribe, hit that button as well. All right, let's get into it. So, a lot of my content has been about empowerment and things like that. But tonight we're doing a whole different topic. So if you've been following me for the empowerment stuff and you are not an NDIS provider, that's okay. There's more content that's not NDIS related. But tonight it is all about NDIS. Okay, so let's get into it. It's been a big day. Now, with the scheme, the NDIS, the announcements were huge, but I have to say nothing that I wasn't expecting. In fact, there was a couple of things I thought might get shared that I really thought that might be said that they were not. They were not. So where to start? The big thing that I really want you to think about is to breathe. Today was announcements of their plans. It's all announcements. We have been down this pathway multiple times. I have been in the sector since it started. 12 years? A long time. We have seen changes. We have seen announcements. I want you to go back to 2024 when the task force, the NDIS registration task force was saying, okay, so here's our proposal for how we can provide registration. So mandatory registration, a topic that's been going on for over 2 years now. The biggest thing with this, sorry, my phone. So the biggest thing with this is that a lot of this has been spoken about. What hasn't been spoken about before is the funding cut, the literal funding cut, and the literal proposed removing at this moment in time 1,000. So it's 160,000 participants potentially off the scheme. Now, one of the things I want to do is not be focused on fear here, not be focused on worry here. Like, we've got to just take a breath and say, okay, these are the announcements. As I said, mandatory registration, it's been brought up again today to be including personal care. Now, Minister Mark Butler did mention around the risk proportion of it, so having it as a risk proportional thing. The task force in 2024, same thing, a risk appropriate or proportional registration. So while we're on that topic of registration, one of the biggest things that I want to say to you is don't rush out and make decisions today. Just take this information in and absorb it. Apparently, and so I've got the transcript here. I can show it to you. It's right here. And I can put the link in later on to this, to where you can find it. It is on I haven't got my glasses on, but it's on the health department website. So I will provide that for you. One of the biggest things that we've heard around mandatory registration is that obviously support workers are going to have to become registered. But if you do community and social participation, then you may not. So there's a lot of unknowns. Now, the biggest thing that you can do right now, if you are a support worker, if you are providing personal care, is take a look at your business. Look at it and say, am I completing risk assessments? Do I have policies and procedures in place? Am I doing care plans? Why am I telling you to look at that now when there's no date for mandatory registration? Because, and I will do a separate video on this, because at any time as a provider that's being paid with NDIS funding, NDIS registered or not, you could be audited. The payment integrity team could contact you. So what I'm saying is that right now, do you have to race out and get registered? No, not even according to this, because there's no date. But there is a proposed date that by 2030, that all providers would be registered that are providing those risk services. We don't know whether the registration will follow the standard registration of where you would definitely need to have an audit. We don't know that yet. This is why I want to bring it into a space of there's a lot of information, but let's bring it into a space of, okay, we've heard you. Now what could that mean for my business? It could mean that if you do mainly social and community access, it could mean that you're going to have less hours. They have said that over the next 12 months for that one, that they want to bring it back to around 26,000 a year in a plan, but obviously that's proportional. That was just an average figure. If I was to do the math on that at $70 an hour right now, 26,000, you're looking at around 7 hours a week for social and community access. Obviously, right now, people are getting a lot more than that. Now, this is going to impact the people that you work with. Yes, it's going to impact your business once they bring it in, but it also means that people won't be able to necessarily access the community as they can now. It will mean that people may struggle to get to doctor's appointments if it's not within the allocation of social and community access and support. So that's just something to be aware of when you're looking at your business plan. So that was one thing, that cut in social and community support, they want to bring it right back to 2023, I think he said. Okay. The other thing to talk about, and I'll come back to mandatory registration now. With that mandatory registration, if you need to go through an audit, so let's pretend that you have to go through an audit as part of that registration. Now, it's the audit cost that's going to hit you because obviously you've all got your documents, policies, and procedures in place, right? Of course you have. That's best practice. But if you don't, and you go for audit as part of registration, the auditor can look right back to when you started working with, let's say, Mary. So when you started working with, say, Mary, and that was 5 years ago, and that's great. Consistency for Mary, consistency for you. Great approach. But if you're audited, right, they're going to go right back to 5 years. They're not going to go to just before the audit when you completed your application and you went, oh, I've got to have all these policies, or I've got to show this, or I've got to show that. You know, it's all about how you meet your practice standards, which is what they're going to look at because you've already got people you're providing a service to. They're going to look back over that, look back at, see all the risk assessments you've done, all the care plans you've done, all the case notes you've done. And if you haven't done it, you may not, I want to emphasize the word may not, get that audit through enough to get registration. So right now, while there is no definitive date for support workers that are doing personal care, because that's what was mentioned in this document, I believe it was on page 11. Yep, 11. Those, because you're providing those services now, for example, if you don't do that paperwork now, but say in a year's time, you have to apply for registration to keep going in your business and you have an audit, the auditor's going to come back and look at all of that. So please, 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 please start looking at that paperwork. Look at your business plan and look at your business contingency plan and think, okay, if all of this information in this document, well, this is the transcript of what Minister Mark Butler said today, doesn't have the answers to the questions. I do have that transcript though. If they bring all of this in, right, then you have to make a decision around your business. Now, the scary thing is that at the moment, there's around 760,000 people on this scheme. And the scary thing is that they're talking about in the very near future, the next 2 years, removing a lot to get back to 600,000 is what they want to do. That's 160,000 people that won't be on the NDIS. They've also talked about in this document, in this speech today, tighter eligibility assessments, which all people on the scheme will go through, and they're going to bring the growth of the scheme down to 2%. Now, that's still a lot of people. But what's really scary and what's really concerning me is what about all those people that are no longer eligible for the scheme? Sure, if you're a business owner watching this, that's going to impact your business as well. But what about those people that have been relying on you showing up to see them? They're relying on you to be that person that says, "Hey, yeah, I really need Angela to show up. I really need her to be there to help me go to my doctor's appointment because I have no one else," or whatever that looks like. And suddenly now then they're ineligible for the scheme. So this eligibility criteria, they want it to be, I believe it's the ICANN assessment that they've talked about, but we'll wait and see. It's been referred to as a standardized assessment tool for functional capacity, which sounds like the ICANN assessment to me. So the ICANN assessment is apparently everybody's going to go through that ICANN assessment. We've also heard this before. That's going to start rolling out. And then all of this is meant to start rolling out in the next 12 to 18 months. So it could be, well, why are we talking about it now? Like, I don't need to do anything right now. And in a lot of ways, that is correct. You can say to me, "Hey, Jackie, we did a webinar with you like in 2024 on all of this." Well, not quite all of it, but most of it, and you'd be correct. Why is it important to have this conversation now is because I want you to start thinking about your business. I want you to start thinking about the people you provide services to, because what if they're reassessed in the next month? What is your plan? The cost of living is already hard enough. Everybody's struggling in the cost of living. Varying degrees, but people are struggling. When there's stress, when there's anxiety in your life and a lot of uncertainty, which is exactly what this is their plan. This is what they're going to do, allegedly. But I haven't seen the action plan. And even when I do see the action plan, I will be saying, okay, so you put a date in there. Good. Are you going to stick with it? Because remember, in 2024, there was a whole conversation of mandatory registration for all providers, but then they shifted to, okay, we're going to implement SIL, support coordinators, and platform providers. And on the 1st of July 2025, they're all going to have their application in. They'll have 3 months to which to get that in, and 12 months to do their audit. Remember all that paperwork? Remember reading all of that? And we all got to July 2025. So I'm getting my years mixed up. The 1st of July 2025. What happened? Nothing happened. It was delayed. Now, I believe it was in the questions and answers, but I could be wrong. There was talk of a couple of specific provider approved lists. Now, I've got to just check my piece of paper because I want to get this right. So, support coordination. Okay. So, there's been the conversation in this today of, and I'm happy to be corrected if people have interpreted this as different, but I've had discussions with people, I heard the same thing. The support coordination and plan managers on an approved list of providers and reduce the spending of those two services by 30%. Now, I don't know about you or your experience, because nobody's kind of piped up and said hi or anything like that, so that's okay. One of the things is that support coordination funding has already been cut. So if they want to reduce it by another 30%, that potentially means less people have a support coordinator. Plan managers, the conversation around to do with them is the proposal in this to have a digital payment system. So what I imagine that to be is, when you go to see your specialist or the doctor, the GP, and you they put in the line item number, they say, oh, it's $50, and you tap your card, and then depending on what you've ticked, then the money comes back in, like the Medicare rebate comes back in, right? So I think that their proposed digital payment system would be putting those details in, because one of the things that the minister spoke to today is about the evidence for the services provided. So whether in that system there has to be an upload or something to show evidence that the shift actually occurred or the service was actually provided, and then the provider gets paid. So that's how they wouldn't really need plan managers if they bring that system in. So there is a trial planned to have a look at what this would look like, and they also want support coordinators, which we believe is support coordinators, to be qualified. So one of the biggest things was talked about was those qualifications and it was mentioning, third party people. Let me just see if I can find that page. The reform, and we're going to get to plan assessments in a second as well, so just hang in there with me. The first part of the conversation was all about aged care. I took this photo. I always have trouble. I should have done my sticky things. Hey, should have been. Oh, here it is. Let me just get this for you. So a number of intermediaries in the scheme, those third parties who manage the majority of plans and claims. Many of these people provide valuable support to participants. Others have no qualifications or background in disability services and are more interested in clipping the ticket. That I'm reading this word for word, not my words. We will reduce spending in this area by 30%. Goes on to say that instead of the contest, our government will identify a short list of accountable, qualified providers which people can choose from. Now, you know those good old words of choice and control? They got mentioned today. So people will still have choice and will still have control. That's nice. I'm really not sure how much choice and how much control, but okay, sure, show us. Making the NDIS sustainable is also about returning the scheme to its true purpose. Now, we've all heard that before. The NDIS was established to support people with significant and permanent disabilities. Once again, a direct quote, not my words. But its scope has expanded to cover many Australians with less significant support needs. The Thriving Kids reform I announced here last year marked the beginning of our determination to reset the scheme to its original intent and keep the scheme strong for those it was built for. Okay, so this brings me into mental health. Now, he was asked in question and answer time around mental health, and all I caught, because that's not in this particular transcript, it's in another one, all I heard was that that was going to be looked at in 2027. So, also in question and answer time was that the ultimate goal is to be to have 90% of the payments paid to providers to be 90% registered providers. So the payments from the scheme to go to 90% registered providers. Allegedly, that goal is aimed at by 2030. Okay. Okay, I want to get to the support worker part. All right. So he says here about support needs in partnership with the community and the state. So a lot was referred to with Thriving Kids or foundational supports. That's kind of where that was heading. Okay. Under the market set up by the coalition, you need more ID to get into a licensed club than to be an NDIS provider. That will change. Not every provider needs to be fully registered. We don't need to monitor retail purchases from chemists the same way we monitor close personal care of vulnerable people. But we will expand categories of mandatory registration to include high risk activities, including personal care, daily supports, and supports provided in closed settings, i.e., SILS. Now, I may have said this earlier, I forget because there's so much information. They were talking about having SIL providers on approved list as well because they want to govern that a little bit more. But moving on and back to this. So in closed settings, that's where we finished off. This builds on existing mandatory registration requirements and the government's earlier decision to introduce mandatory registrations for supported independent living as well as platform providers from the 1st of July 2025. Let me read that again, okay? And if you if you can comment, great. I know many of you probably don't even have a YouTube account, so that's cool. But anyway, let's get to this. I want to read this again. I want to read these two again without my little piece in there. Okay, I'm just going to read these two sentences through again. But we will expand categories of mandatory registration to include the high risk activities, personal care, daily living supports, and supports provided in closed settings. This builds on existing mandatory registration requirements and the government's earlier decision to introduce mandatory registration for supported independent living as well as platform providers from the 1st of July 2026. He goes on to say, we will need to tackle how payments are claimed and managed. Currently, the NDIA has no visible evidence of 90% of all claims that are made by plan managers or the providers directly. That's around 600,000 claims every day without supporting evidence, and the standard of invoices that are submitted can vary widely. This is why they want that whole one system. Okay, breathe. It's a lot. So I want to bring it back to that that sentence of as well as platform providers from the 1st of July. So he said this builds on existing mandatory registration requirements and the government's earlier decision to introduce mandatory registration. So my question, if I was there, which I wasn't, is does that mean that from the 1st of July they want the others? The high risk activities, personal care, and daily living supports. Like, I don't know, it's up for interpretation, right? This is why I'm saying, do you need to race out and get registered now? That's a business decision. That's entirely up to you. But I don't know. I don't know whether support workers, effectively, because let's face it, they're the ones providing those services. Are support workers going to have to be registered or at least have their application in? I think it would be application in from the 1st of July. We don't know the answer to that. And the biggest part of all of this is we're going to have to do some waiting and seeing. But like I said earlier, I would love for all the businesses, all the people that are showing up to watch this, I would love for you to succeed. Why do I want you to succeed? Because that means if you're an ethical provider and you have success and your business is ready to go, I'm not saying go get an audit right now unless you need to. Gosh, don't go spending money you don't need to. But preparation. When I do my coaching with my clients, and I do this for myself as well, one of the biggest things is I look at that worst case scenario. So let's say in this case, worst case scenario is NDIS registration that you have to apply for it, right? That could feel like the worst case scenario. Why can it feel like that? Because everybody thinks, oh my gosh, I've got to spend $20,000 on it or whatever. I want to just talk to that for a second. If you're an independent or a sole trader, providing support work, so let's say it's the personal care and daily care, and it's just you, and you provide service to say 5 people, you still, to pass an audit, will need your documents, policies, and procedures. Why? Because they show how you're going to meet the practice standards. That's that first bit. But the only cost that you will have for registration is an audit, which could be around $2,000. Now, I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but for some people it is, so I want to acknowledge that. But if that's all you've got to pay out, then registration isn't going to be as expensive as you think. Now, if you don't have those documents, policies, and procedures, you all know I've got them. You all know that. Anyone that watches this, I'm going to just put that down for a minute. Anyone that watches this, unless you're really super new to me, you would know that I have them. I'm not here to sell them to you, but you know that on my website, in the disability sector store, there's all those documents, policies, and procedures. And not only that, I have how to write them. So if you don't want to pay for them done, you can learn to write them yourself. The biggest thing I would love for you to do from today's announcements is not panic, but let's go, okay, here we go again with the mandatory registration stuff. We've heard it 100 times. Maybe not that much, but we've heard it over and over again. how does this impact my business, and what do I need to do to protect my business, to have my business keep going? Now, you might need to be innovative in your business and go, okay, I'm going to do support work, and then I'm going to do horse riding lessons. I don't know, whatever else you do. But it could be that your business has two streams to it. Because right now there are over 300,000 people invoicing right now. It's actually getting up to close to 400,000 people submitting invoices, providing services. If the scheme was to be reduced to the 600,000 that they're talking about, and if they reduce funding in social and community participation, that's less people that require the services, and that's less work available. So technically speaking, if there's 400,000 providers offering services and there's only 600,000 that require services, and remember, the level of funding is going to be high and low, like this, it's going to fluctuate with every person. Then, technically speaking, that's 2 participants per provider. So, logic would tell us by reducing the number of people on the scheme, by reducing the number of social and community hours. So, let's pretend that everybody gets 7 hours or less, and now that's 7 hours. Right, that's based on it being 26,000 a year and divided by $70 an hour. Let's say that hourly rate goes up. That's even less hours. So if you're providing social and community to somebody and that's how you work, like, and that's your service, you could potentially only have 7 hours of work a week, maybe. It could be less. The 7 hours isn't like, that was just the average that he uses. The problem when they use averages like this is everybody goes, "Oh, that's great. I'm actually gonna get more support. Awesome." Or other people go, "Damn it, I'm gonna lose it. Damn it." So out of today, there's a lot of plans to cut the spend. Like, that is their objective. But behind all of that, behind all the money talk, is real people. There's real people needing services. Yes, I know if you're a provider, you need the money too, right? I get that. I'm not minimizing anybody, but you think about it. If you are the person that can't get out of bed in the morning without the support worker, and your favorite support worker is no longer able to work with you because they haven't become registered, because they go, "I can't afford that," so they leave, which is a very real possibility. Then how are you, that person that can't get out of bed, that may lose their favorite support worker or their team, and then their funding's cut, then they've got to go through this new assessment. It's way too much. It's too overwhelming. So if you are a provider and you're watching this, please, 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 let's like reassure people in the sense of, let's just take it one moment at a time. Until dates are set, until we see that action plan, we don't know when all of this is going to come in. But we do know it's all planned to be neatly packaged together anywhere from 2028, which apparently, I haven't looked this up, so someone can look it up. But apparently we have a federal election then as well. Don't know, but just we know how these things go. Now, when I was looking on LinkedIn after all of this, mostly LinkedIn, the Facebook didn't have much, and I was watching everybody's summary of this, and I was like, and people are saying, yes, it's coming in. It's definitely going to come in. And then I spoke to some people that I know that I have a lot to do with, and they've been in the industry just as long as me. And we're all going, yep, We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. But preparation is important. So what potentially could happen is you could lose hours with the people that you provide support to. You could, like, they could be off the scheme and you lose the work. It could be that there's social and community participation and their hours drop down to, I don't know, 2 a week. Could be anything. A lot of people are asking questions about, well, what does thriving kids look like and what does foundational supports look like? Yeah, anybody's guess. We're not really sure, but Minister today said that money has been allocated to both of those and that the states do have to get them going because they've allegedly, I haven't seen it, but allegedly they've signed the agreement. So we're just going to take his word for it that they've signed the agreement. He got asked today about the cost of living and, what then happens if people lose hours or lose funding in their plan, which is effectively losing hours, then how do they survive? And he was a bit vague with that answer, what I observed. So all in all, I just need to do my checklist. So we've done provider registration, and we do know that there's a whole lot around that. But the reason I've spent a bit more time on that is because a provider, whether you're registered or not, can be ordered by the payment integrity team at any time. Your invoices can be questioned at any time. They can be rejected at any time. But the biggest thing is evidence. Now, the one thing that I have copped a lot of over the years is I'm an independent, Jackie. I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to do any documentation. I don't even have to have business insurance. And sorry, I cringe every time. Every time I hear I don't have to have business insurance, it's like, oh no, don't say that to me, please. Sure. Technically speaking, you can do whatever you like. It's your business. But I strongly encourage, as part of best practice, that you back your business. If you've watched me for the last several years, been to the events where I've spoken, been on my webinars when I've done those, and we're going to bring some more of those out. We're going to bring some fun ones out as well, not just all about this heavy stuff. I talk about it from the perspective of protect yourself, please. Like your risk assessment could potentially save you if there's an incident, right? It could. It depends on what you do with it. But if you identify the risk and then take an action plan to minimize that becoming an incident, then you're demonstrating that you are caring about the person you're providing support to and you're caring about your business. Just protect yourself. Protect the people you provide the support to, be present with them, make sure that you're listening to them. They're people and you're a person. Communication is important. So mandatory look, I have this book that I haven't quite finished it. I've had some other stuff going on, but it's all around registration and what's expected in an audit. And it's like I've been building this out, this little toolkit around NDIS registration. I've been building it all out so that you don't need a consultant or you don't need anybody. So should this day literally come in, you can be prepared for it. All right, I'm going to get off that because I could talk to that all day just because I care. Like, I want you to have your business. I want the people that are on the scheme to have the right support. And when those two things are working, oh my gosh, the results are amazing. People are living a quality life. Like, this is so important. We've talked about the community, social and community funding cuts. Really wish you'd talk in hours. We talked about thriving kids and foundational supports. We don't know much. We just know that that's meant to be out there or being built. And we talked about decreasing. So what they want to do is decrease the growth of the scheme to about 2% until they reach their what they call their reset. And then when they reach the reset target, allegedly the growth can go back up by about 5%. Who knows, right? Like if they're wanting to cap it at 60,000 people, which is kind of how it sounded, then to me that isn't a growth. And if we're already got 760,000 people on the scheme, that's still not a growth. That's a decline. So whether I really don't know how that all works. There was what I felt, this is just my interpretation, was that it was really all about focusing on people that they might get on the scheme for a little bit, build some capacity, and then they're off the scheme. There was also a little bit of a sense to it that he actually did refer to that, by the way. There was also a feeling of okay, take someone like myself who has autism, ADHD, so I level 2. Um, I can do a lot myself. If I'm having a really bad day, though, I can't. And let's just pretend that one of my biggest challenges is organization and staying on track, which actually isn't too far from the truth. So for me to, live on my own, then I might just need a little bit of support. Just a little bit. The likelihood of me getting that is like minimal. Whereas in earlier years, I would have got on the scheme. I had psychologists telling me, "Oh, you can get on the NDIS." And I went, "Oh, hell no." Like, don't get me wrong, it's really good, but it's not for me. And I don't need to be taking up a place that someone else could really benefit from, even though I do struggle at times. Show me someone that doesn't, right? So if I can just reassure you right now, because you're going to read posts on social media, you are going to read the news reports, like you're going to see people going, we've got to get registered. You may even see consultants tell you that you have to become registered now, like get in now and do this. I am a coach. I am a business coach. I'm not going to tell you that. Why am I not going to tell you that? Because this is your business. This is you, the business owner, that has to make the decision. And if you are a participant, a person, I don't like the word participant, but if you are a person on the NDIS scheme, if you are somebody that receives NDIS funding, then, keep in touch with your support coordinator. Keep in touch with your plan manager. Keep an eye on your plan. One of the biggest things that they want to stop is so those plan reviews. They also don't what they wanna do, and this was a bit bizarre, this part, but, a plan review will be kept very much for a big change in circumstances, like he said, it's a big change in circumstances. A plan review that increases the funding by 20% is not going to be, um, easy to get anymore. Um, there was a reference made to, um and I can't remember exactly which part it was, but it was all about that if like they don't want the funds to just roll over. So let's say there's I will let's use the public average, which is the public believe that an average plan is around $62,000 a year. Most of us know that not to be not true, because for what did I work out? For 20 hours of support work a week, that averages to 72,000, and that's without allied health in there. So that anyway, let's use 62,000. So a plan with $62,000 a year, and let's just say it's Mary's plan, and Mary doesn't use all of that, then there's the potential that in Mary's next plan that she gets less. And that's kind of what they're alluding to, is that when they do those assessments, and those functional capacity assessments, they really want to look at what's that person's capacity to be independent? What's that person's capacity to do those day-to-day things? So if it is the ICANN assessment tool, which they've talked about, and I have seen a version of it, um, and I actually learnt about it several years ago. Um, that is it's a test that could, or an assessment, excuse me, assessment that could go either way very easily. So, the example that I give is that if we've got, let's use Mary again. Um, by the way, Mary is not a real participant. This is just a name that I use to personalize it. Um, let's pretend that Mary is an adult who has an acquired brain injury. So Mary fell off a horse while horse riding. She ended up with an acquired brain injury. She's in her 30s. She's an amazing person, absolutely amazing. Now, let's say the assessor comes to assess Mary, and you, the support worker, just for this example, are there. One of the things assessors will do, and they do this in aged care, so I anticipate they would do this in NDIS when this assessment tool comes out. This is my take on it. And this is how the ICANN assessment can go if they use ICANN, which they've spoken about. So they can ask Mary some questions. So it could be, "Hey Mary, when you have your shower in the morning, do you shower yourself?" And Mary, with her acquired brain injury, who has some communication skills, and maybe her cognitive age is, I don't know, let's say 10, for example, because of this acquired brain injury. Mary would go, "Yes, yep, I do. I shower myself. Yes." But you, the support worker, sitting there going, "Well, that part is literally true. However, she only can shower herself because I'm standing there going, 'Mary, remember to wash under your arms. Mary, remember to wash your stomach, your back, like whatever. Mary, turn off the taps now, and here's your towel.' Okay, so remember, we're going to dry everywhere." And you're prompting Mary because of her short-term memory. But on the outside, Mary looks like she's this amazing person that can shower herself. She can make you a tea or a coffee and get you some cookies and do a few things. But she could potentially leave the oven on or the stove on because of short-term memory, because of her acquired brain injury. So my biggest concern is that while somebody can look like they have that functional capacity, I really hope this test that they bring in, this assessment, I'll use the right word, this assessment tool that they bring in around functional assessment goes beyond the standard questions. Because we want to make sure that the people that need the funding on the scheme actually do it. And when we look at what's going on at the ground level, to me, a lot of this is not covering the ground level stuff. How many of you that are watching this and maybe watching the recording have gone and worked and not been paid? You're running your own business and you needed to stay an extra 2 hours because the person was having a really bad day, and you stayed, and you knew that you couldn't invoice for those 2 hours because you just weren't going to get paid because they don't have it in their funding. And you chose to stay, which is great, but you can't keep doing that running a business. So to me, the people on the scheme that live with that disability need to make sure that they're always safe. And is that not the code of conduct? Is that not the NDIS code of conduct? Is a person safety? Now, my biggest thing that comes with all of this is that how registered providers are said to be, this is how we can keep everything safe and quality service and all of that. Like, yes, a registered provider, they've been audited, they offer quality services, they're doing all the right things. Huh. Really? Don't get me wrong. I know some amazing, absolutely amazing registered providers, and I know some amazing unregistered providers. But not all registered providers are doing the right thing and doing quality service. I've walked into some still houses with registered providers. I've also walked into still houses that are unregistered providers. I've heard how registered providers have invoiced for services and not shown up. I've heard of how unregistered providers. So if the big push for registered providers is because we then guarantee that it's got a quality service, then no, because registered providers are on the banned list. Registered providers have been arrested. We know that. We've seen it in the media. So registration is not the oversight that it is portrayed to be at all. At this moment in time, on the 22nd of April 2026 at 7:50 p.m. Melbourne time. The date reference. Why do I date reference things? Because somebody could come across this video in 6 years' time and go, what was that all about? We're now all registered. Let's hope there's still an NDIS in 6 years' time. I know I'm passionate. You should see me when I talk about living an empowered life. Oh my gosh, you can't quieten me down on that one either. Or when you hear me talk about your unique success code, you can't shut me up about that one either. So we won't go there. I would like to read you this little bit though. I thought this was interesting, and I didn't understand the full context of it as he said it because it's his speech, so he said it quite quickly. The Australian Criminal Intelligence Commission has told a review into the NDIS integrity that criminals are paying cash kickbacks to participants and their families, and sometimes resorting to intimidation and threats over violence towards vulnerable people. If you hear of anybody threatening anybody on the NDIS or any workers, then please report it. Okay. Then there's apparently this bit. The ACCIC said large cash withdrawals, asset purchases, and fraudulent financial transactions are common, including efforts to obscure the origin of the NDIS funds. This underlines a serious need for action to tackle the lack of integrity in the payment system. Enrolling providers in a digital payment system means the NDIA will be able to see the evidence from every single provider and ensure they're paid directly. Again, this isn't about the scheme, design, or reform. It is simply good management. Now, I understand it on a surface level, but the biggest thing is that he did say participants are not committing fraud. A lot of it seemed to fall back onto the unregistered providers, and we simply know that that's not true. Like when we're out there at the ground level, and for those of you that know this, but others of you that don't, I used to manage a support worker company. I've also worked as a support coordinator, and then I've done my own thing. I love the business coaching. So the biggest thing is that there is all of this. There is also the discussion of maybe one payment level for registered providers and one payment level for unregistered providers. That was kind of a vague thing, and that was also in the question and answers. So I think that we're not going to know a huge more now until May when the budget is handed down. There are one or two more pieces of legislative changes that need to come in before everything can, but mandatory registration is not one of them. They can make the announcement tomorrow and say, as of July 1st, 2026, support workers are going, or providers that provide personal care must be registered. They could announce that or not. they've pushed out a couple of things, but we really need to see their action plan. We really need to see, okay, here's the time frame. Here's we're going to do this, and then we're going to do this. They're still talking about a trial of a couple of things. They're still talking about some consultation. Okay, cool. I think we've got a lot of consultation. I got an email the other day from the NDIA about consultations, so they're still doing them. Now, a lot of times when there's consultations, sometimes they get you to sign a non-disclosure. That varies. And at the end of it, to wrap it all up for the ministers thing, I'll just read you the last few bits. He said, the decisions will simply be taken. Oh, sorry. I need to give you context. Because if we act now, we can safeguard and strengthen it so that it serves Australians to create. It was created to help. So it upholds a purpose, providing choice and control. There you go. Dignity and opportunities to the Australians with permanent and significant disabilities. They keep bringing that part up. There's no reasonable or necessary in this. It was always services are assessed on reasonable and necessary. That's apparently not there anymore. Then we can make sure, like Medicare, the NDIS is still changing lives 3 decades from now. But if we wait, if we hang back, if we imagine the hard choices can wait for easier times, then the decisions will simply be taken out of our hands. The social license will be lost, and the NDIS will not be able to deliver what Australians with disabilities deserve. Our government cannot and will not accept that. This is the right thing to do, and it is the right time to do it. For the sake of the people who needs the NDIS today and for future generations, you can count on its promise in decades to come. That was the end of the speech. And then they did question and answers. So if we take him at his word, which I'm not disputing his word, but if we take him at face value from what was said today, then the timelines are a little skewed because in question and answer, they seem to change a little bit. But it was a bit hard to keep up at times as well. So prepare your business. If you're a business owner, prepare now. Think of best practice. Think about, what would I do? Like if I have to become NDIS registered, let's pretend that from the 1st of July you do. We're just pretending. Okay. Like I'm not saying you do, just pretending. Then how ready is your business to do that? I am going to do an event around preparing for audits in the NDIS in a couple of weeks. It'll probably be middle of May, to be honest. So in a month. So keep an eye out for that webinar. If you don't follow me on social media, then please do. If you're looking for resources to support your business, then we have a membership, especially for disability businesses. So you can find me on social media and you can reach out to me there, or you can book time for a free chat, which is around maximum 30 minutes. But the biggest thing I want you to do is just stop. Don't panic. I've given you a lot of information because there was a lot to break down. And I would really love you to think about, what does this mean for my business? If I have to become registered, is that something that I'm prepared to do? If you're not sure, you can find me on social media to at least open the discussion with me. I don't want to make promises that are going to be tough for me to keep because I do run a business at the same time. So like you, time is money. I'm just thinking this through. So look, I'm happy to run a small event. So if there was enough people that were asking me the same question, then I would do a small event via Teams. So it's not public. You can all, come off mute and ask questions and that. There might be a small fee attached to it, like I'm talking really small. But I really want to see what the May budget says. I want to see an action plan from the minister or the NDIS or whoever. Like whoever's going to give us these dates and times of when all this, I want to see that timeline. And I want to see the actions that they take towards it because, and I will repeat this over and over again. If any of you came to me tomorrow and said, Jackie, should I become NDIS registered? I'm going to go, I don't know. Let's have a conversation. If you're a SIL provider, you better be more organised than if you're a support worker that's just found out that you're probably going to have to, because we've been working with SIL for ages. This is a trying time for everybody for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of trying times for the cost of living. There's trying times to get to work. There's trying times in running a business. There's trying times to make sure that you're earning enough money in your own business to be able to keep the lights on and all of that. It's a really trying time. And then we go, hey, $6 billion has got to come off the NDIS. Awesome. Let's make that happen. Not. And at the end of the day, it's the people that live with the disability that are going to be hit the hardest as well. Like, it's not just providers. This is community. I've given so many examples, and I've said to all these MPs that are like, yes, everybody must be mandatory registered. Mandatory registration to save the NDIS. Like, come talk to me, because I'll tell you why it's not necessarily the right answer. But it could be if done right, because just want to bring you back to 2024 when the task force on mandatory registration did that flowchart. Like, do you guys remember that flowchart? I have it. I have the official one and I have the breakdown one that I did that was so much easier to follow. And it was a risk proportional. And on that one, to just a point of reference, a little bit different to what's in this speech, this was the speech, was that mandatory registration process that the task force put together in 2024, it talked about risk proportion. And it was going to work out that a lot of, if they followed that pathway, a lot of support workers that were registering wouldn't have to go through an official audit. They would just do a self-assessment audit, which meant that they wouldn't have to pay out for the audit, but they would have to show evidence that they have their documents, policies, and procedures in place, right? That's what that proposal was. Now, is the minister, in his overall speech, because remember, this is the overall plan, in this plan, is he thinking that we're going to go back to that recommendation? I don't know. I'm just hoping that we get some answers, because just to tell us that mandatory registration for providing personal care is the way it's going to go, okay, cool. Not like we don't know what that looks like. So the biggest thing is, just be kind to yourselves. Be kind to yourselves. Think about your business. Think about your long term. Think about where you want to be in 4 years' time, 5 years' time. Think about that longevity, because by 2030, they want to have all of this sorted. They want to have the reduced numbers. They want to have all the providers registered. They want to do all of that. So this is a really great opportunity to think about your business and think about your 5-year plan and think about, well, maybe. I mean, it's been taking 2 years since we had the task force put their recommendations forward. I think there's a lot of things that are going on in the background, and I think they make these announcements and this is the intention, but the background's not ready to go. So it's a little bit like if I said to all of you, hey, come join my Empowered Life membership. It's awesome. It's like it's so amazing. You're just going to get incredible value. You know, you can do stress management, you can do meditation, like blah blah blah, right? And then you go, oh, that sounds really amazing, and you go, okay, great, yep, yep, and you're ready to invest, and then I go, yeah, it's not quite ready. Yeah. Like, you're gonna go, well, can I trust what you're saying? Can I believe you? Like, because we keep hearing. So this is how I feel a little bit with like all these announcements is that we actually want to be able to see what, like, we want to see the action plan. We've heard all this before, which is why I'm actually quite calm about all of it. Most people are going, oh, it's a really bad day. It's a really bad day for the NDIS. It's a really, oh my gosh, they're definitely going to do it. They're definitely going to cut the funds. I have concerns. I'm not surprised. Am I panicking? Nope. If I was a support worker with my own business, which I used to be, just doing the sole trader thing, what would I do? Well, because I already know that documents, policies, and procedures are important, I would already have those in place. So because I've already got them in place, I'd be going, interesting. Let's wait and see if I need to have an audit or what's their plan, what's their process. So whilst it's scary, it's actually worse for the participants in many ways, but you have the opportunity to visit your business plan. Where do you want to be in 5 years? What do you want to be doing? What are you passionate about? And what does that look like? What do I need to do to ensure that I can go the full way? So I will say right now, based on today's information, if you are a provider and you provide personal care and you want to stay in the NDIS as a provider, you are potentially at some point going to have to become registered. I don't think they're going to let that go, but exactly by when, I don't know. So I would be putting all my ducks in a row. If this is just my personal opinion, you make your own business decisions. If you want business coaching with me, that's fine. It is paid, but you can book time with me. But at the end of the day, this is about taking back your power and what you have control over. And you have control over your business plan. You have control over how far you want to take this business, this dream that you're passionate about. And you know what? I really, really hope that the most amazing, caring support workers that are independents do go with registration when this comes. It comes not necessarily today, but when this comes through, whenever this might be. But the one thing I want to reiterate, which I'd said earlier in the video, and I'm going to say again now. So if you've watched it all the way through, thank you. Appreciate you. Please hit the like button. And if this is useful, subscribe. But the one thing, if I can give you back some power and control today, is to say this is a choice for you as well. Knowledge is power, and then you watch. The biggest thing right now is we watch and we wait for the action plan. But while we're waiting, it doesn't hurt to go, okay, I've got to make sure that if I've got to apply for registration, I'm going to have to go through audit. If I have to go through audit, they're going to look back to since I've started with these people. I better start doing this now, because what an auditor will do is they will come and look at your documents, right? Like if you're already working with people, they come and look at your risk assessments, your care plans, your case notes, your timesheets, like all of those things, that they're all how you're going to meet the practice standards. And they bring all of that through and they look at all of that and then they go, well, you've only just done it for 2026, but you've been working with Mary since 2020. Where's all that stuff? So then they write it as a non-conformity, and then the non-conformities add up to a non-compliance, and then the commission looks at this application, they look at this audit report, and they go, no. So let's minimize that happening, okay? All right, guys. I am going to leave it here. I'm going to take it that a lot of you don't have a YouTube account, so you can't ask questions. Find me on social media. LinkedIn is a really good place to find me. My website is I Saw with Jackie G. On there, you can book that initial chat and we can have that. But in the meantime, don't panic. Keep breathing. Keep the focus that you can do this. I will do more updates. As soon as there's updates, I will do them. And just know that this is impacting so many people, but they're announcements. This was a speech. This was an announcement. Now we wait for the action plan. And that probably won't come until after the federal budget is done, which is in May. But prepare your business and think about your 5-year plan for your business. And if you're a participant, my heart, please take care of you. Let's not panic. Let's wait. Just breathe and take your time to take care of you. All right, I'm going to end it here. I have a little bit of a song, and this is my end thing that comes up when I do these videos all around my book launch. So take care. Thank you for hanging in there. I really appreciate all of you. If you found this of any value, and I know I went over and over stuff, but I think it's important. If you found this value, please feel free to share it with other people. In the meantime, take care of you. I do coaching. I can do a webinar to do a more Q&A thing if that will be helpful as well. All right, take it easy, guys, and thanks again for watching.